A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase.
Hi everybody, how's it going? And welcome to Blackpool here in the English Northwest. I've got a cold that you might be able to hear. I'm sorry about that. Can still smell this bin though. Move over here. Now I have been inspired to come here by my trip to New York a few weeks ago when, as you might remember, I made a video from Coney Island. And I loved visiting Coney Island, and this is kind of a British version of it. Basically a seaside town with roller coasters popping up everywhere and amusements of all kinds. Basically lots of stuff that you wouldn't expect to see in a town, and therefore I think it's an interesting place to photograph. Probably more in the summer, but it's February and what are you going to do? So today at the very least, hopefully, will act as a half-decent scout. I don't imagine you're surprised these days when a video just ends abruptly or cuts to me at my house. Seems to happen most weeks, but basically this first photo that I took in Blackpool sort of set the tone for my photography that whole day. I didn't take a single photo that I liked at all, really, and rather than just show you lots of mediocre photos with no context, what I thought I'd do today instead is show you 4 or 5 of the photos that didn't work, talk a little bit about why they didn't work and what might have improved them. I thought that would be more useful, and at the same time that I do that, I thought I could start my packing for Antarctica. I leave tomorrow, so yeah, I best get a move on. I mean, I've got a lot of the stuff that I need in the suitcase now, but obviously it's not ready to shut. I do know some people that would shut a suitcase like that. I'm married to one of them. Got my motion sickness patches. Most important thing I take on those ships, aside from a jacket. So this photo, or this concept for a photo, didn't really work for me on that day, because even though I'm super excited about it as a concept, I need it to be simple. You know, I just want a northern looking street, perfectly ordinary in every single way, but with a giant roller coaster in the background. I really love that juxtaposition. The problem is that everywhere that I found to take this photo seemed to have lots of distractions in it. You know, there were birds flying around, there was an ice cream van, there were lots of flashes of yellow, there were puddles, there were piles of clothes lying on the floor. There was just lots of things to take your mind away from the oddness of the scene. So yeah, that was a bit of a shame. I really like the idea of it, and I'm going to spend a lot more time on Google Street View trying to work out how many other places I could go to try and get a shot like that. And it must be possible in Blackpool, but I don't think that is the one, sadly. I'm trying to work out whether to take this with me or not. This is my 100 to 400, and I took a lot of photos at longer focal lengths last time I went to Antarctica. The thing is though, I don't really look at those photos, ever. I'm much more inclined to look at photos that I took like this, and I think this was taken at like 50 millimeters. So I'm considering not taking this given its size and weight, but I'm just worried there's going to be a scene open up that's just perfect for like 300 or 400 millimeters, and then if I've not got it with me, I'll obviously kick myself. But that is the state of mind that has you carry around a bag full of lenses that just becomes a real pain in the neck. So I don't know. Anyway, this photo I quite liked, or I liked elements of it, like the dogs running along, 3 of them in a row, all basically in exactly the same position. I really liked that. I wish they were more central in the scene, because then I think they'd tie together a bit better with the guy on the stairs. And speaking of the stairs, I wish I'd been higher up, because you can see in the background that the pier sort of clashes with the top of the stairs. And the tower, Blackpool Tower, is just a bit of a mess on the right hand side as well. And yeah, I felt like it was a scene that had so much potential, but it just didn't quite come together, which is really annoying. Sorry about this cable. Been doing some printing. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned my Synology in a video, and a few of the comments said, I hope that's not your only backup, because having a NAS isn't really a backup in and of itself. And no, I've got a big G drive on my desk that is a backup of all the most important stuff I have. I do have lots of stuff off-site as well, and I use cloud services. And when I'm traveling, well, I've got lots of SSDs, and they're fantastic for working on, particularly with video footage. And then I've got some deeper storage solutions as well. So maybe I'll do a video about backups at some point. Sounds incredibly boring, that though. Anyway, this photo, or basically all of the photos under the pier, again, I just didn't nail them. So this one could have been really good if the sun had been a bit lower and stronger with really punchy golden light coming through. That would look good. Ditto this one, just needed some punchier light. This one, there's way too much detail in the background, unfortunately. I mean, Sea Life Centre, for instance, needed some compositional work, that one. Don't really know what I was thinking. And this one is probably my favourite photo of the day, but it's lacking something. And I think what it's lacking is flat light. You know, had it been really soft, nice, flat light, absolutely no detail in the clouds, that would have allowed the colour, both of the piers and the people in the background, to really stand out, which would have been lovely. But I think with some blue sky, even though the sun wasn't super strong, I think it just lessens the impact of those colours a little bit. So never mind, maybe another day. This one could have been an absolute belter. You know, can you imagine if there were really stormy clouds in the sky, or even if there were waves crashing over the wall with just that punchy keep out sign? That would have looked amazing, but alas it wasn't to be, because it was a nice calm day and low tide. So, bit of a shame. And I appreciate I'm wanting different conditions for basically all of these photos, but that one would have been really good. So I have been printing the orders for this month's print. There might still be some available on my website, although by the time this goes live, I'll have probably been away for about a week or so I'm not sure. But yeah, thanks for your support if you've bought one, and I'm excited to get those out. But moving back onto photos I'm less keen on, this one, again, needs different conditions. And the reason I took this photo is because I really like the way the guy's coat mirrors lots of the other stuff around. The sand and the concrete holding up the fence. But with the black trousers on, I think it's a shame that this tarmac isn't completely soaked from rain or from waves maybe, because then I could have used a polarizer and made it really dark, and it would have matched the black trousers much better. And I mean, again, it would have been good for some drama too, but there's no drama in the sea. It's a perfectly pleasant day. Also, actually on this, I think this is one of the photos that doesn't actually benefit from being in a 4:3 aspect ratio that you get from the Hasselblad medium format sensor. And I think this shot would actually benefit from being 3:2. Still wouldn't make it a great photo, but I think it just looks a bit odd in 4:3. There's lots of detail, particularly in this tarmac at the bottom of the photo, that just, yeah, doesn't add anything. So yeah, I'd change that to 3:2. Probably won't bother, given that the conditions aren't good. But yeah. And finally this one. Actually, I don't mind this one. I like the bird sat on top of the light. Obviously like the red robe. And I also like the fact that the fence is on like a slant against the very obvious horizon of the sea. I think that looks quite interesting too. I mean, would it be more interesting in a storm? Probably. But yeah, this is perhaps the pick of the bunch. Although still not super, super interesting. Now, all the photos I've shown you, I think, maybe all but one, were taken on this little Hasselblad that I featured when it first came out a few weeks back. And I love this little camera, and a few of you suggested when I first put out that initial video that this seems like the sort of camera that would be perfectly suited to what I want from a camera and to my kind of photography. And I don't disagree with you, but I could never use this camera day to day, sadly, purely because of the slightly odd way that I shoot, by way of the fact that I have a YouTube channel. And so basically the reason that I got rid of my Leica M11 last year was that that didn't shoot video. Moreover, even if it did shoot video, it's unlikely to be as quick and easy to shoot video as with something like this Sony or lots of other cameras on the market, where basically you can flick a dial to go between stills and video with all your settings set up already. And like I say, that is a slightly odd requirement because most photographers don't have a YouTube channel. But for me, day to day, it would be a bit tricky to shoot with this in the way that I want to shoot. And that's a shame because the files, even if the compositions in the scenes aren't that nice, the files are incredible to work with. And so I'd love to have this camera and have it as like a treat to shoot with, but it's quite an expensive treat that I wouldn't be using every day. Oh, but one thing I would add is that I was interested on that day in Blackpool when the sun came out to see what it was like to shoot with this rear screen, because I was thinking that when the sun came out it'd be really tricky to see what it is that you were shooting, and I was thinking that I'd probably miss an EVF. But I didn't. There were no times where I thought, oh, I can't really see what I'm shooting there. The screen did very well, so that was nice to see. But yeah, the fact it can't shoot video just means that day to day I probably couldn't get away with using this camera. But outside of my slightly niche request, fantastic little machine. And the lack of good photos is not the camera's fault. Never is, really. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully that was useful. A bit more useful than me just showing you the photos that aren't particularly good. And of course, a big thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Squarespace. Now, I mentioned that I might, or hopefully, will have some prints still available. If you don't know, basically, I'm doing at the moment 1 print per month on my website. And there are editions with a limited number available depending on the size, either 50 or 20. And then after that, I will never sell that particular photo again. And setting up something like that on a Squarespace website is super simple. And it's just as simple to write a blog post, just as easy to put together a newsletter, every bit as straightforward to update my portfolio, just as it's child's play to check the analytics of my Squarespace website. And I am not a technically minded person, but I am a photographer who really appreciates having a place online to show my work and to sell my work. And I think it's crucial for all photographers to have that. So if you're interested in checking out the possibility of having a Squarespace website, then you can do so for free with a free trial by going to squarespace.com. And after that, if you would like to make a purchase, you can get 10% off that first purchase by going to squarespace.com/James. And a huge thank you to them for their continued support of this channel and for making fantastic products and for, well, for making it possible for someone like me to be able to update a website. No mean feat. But yes, I will see you next week when I will be, I don't know, maybe on my way to Antarctica, in Antarctica. Hopefully one of those two. Something will have gone wrong if I'm not. But I'll see you then. I need to go and fold my coats and have a shave.